It's so mysterious, George, that very few scholars even want to talk about it because they don't know what to say about it. It's a brief text. It's only about 2,000 lines.
All right.
And it is written as if an observer were present the day that the Creator created humankind. There's another branch of work that this follows up on, and it is the study of whether or not we are living in a simulation or virtual reality. When we are truly ready for that information, it's right there. Sometimes this is a perfect example. This has been around, for 200,000 years. So as I began my search, my thinking was, if we could really pin down our origins, the science, the best science of the 21st century is now overturning so many of Darwin's ideas. And by the way, Darwin was open to that. He was willing for his ideas to fall. He viewed them as stepping stones toward greater understandings. So Darwin was okay with that. And I began to see a connection in the texts that was not accounted for in the theories of evolution. And it is a connection that is very controversial today. Now, Darwin didn't have access to the tools and the technology. He certainly didn't have the DNA databases that we have today. So this is where it began. Part of my job in software development was in writing pattern recognition software, and I've searched patterns ever since I was a kid. So you applied it to this? Sure, it comes very naturally for me. I used to look at flashing patterns on blinking lights on Christmas trees, and I mean you see them everywhere. So I thought, if there are patterns in nature, and we are nature, they should show up in our DNA. And it was in the 80s when the DNA databases, we could actually begin to access them without being part of the research projects. So to make a long story really brief, what I found was in one of the most obscure and ancient of the texts, a book called the Sepher Yetizirah.
What is that?
It is a Hebrew text that has only been translated a couple of times of a couple of authors into English. It's so mysterious, George, that very few scholars even want to talk about it because they don't know what to say about it. It's a brief text. It's only about 2,000 lines.
All right.
And it is written as if an observer were present the day that the Creator created humankind, step by step. However, it's written in a language that doesn't make a lot of sense to us
today. Is it like Genesis or totally different?
It's very different from Genesis. I think Genesis probably partially derived from this text, the Sepher Yetizirah, which is the book of creation. It literally translates to the book of creation. So it was as if someone were watching the Creator actually create the first person.
Doing what he did.
Doing what he did, but it is not written scientifically. The bottom line to what the text is saying is that through language, humankind was created. And that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Explain that.
If you take it literally. But as I began to follow the instructions as the author created them in this text, and this, George, this is the power of transcending the boundaries between science and spirituality. Because if a scientist only looked at the elements of life, you'd never make this discovery. If you only look at the spiritual text, you would never make this discovery. But it's by blending the two together and allowing them to tell the story. So we today in modern science, we talk about life as the result of elements, and we describe elements through word and through number. So we have the periodic table, for example. Hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon makes up the DNA of our bodies. Those are the words, and for every one of those words, there are a lot of numbers that may be applied. There are 17 different numeric parameters that go with each of those. So my friend said, "You think it's science fiction?" He said, "Matrix is actually a documentary about us and the way things work in the world." So it may be that by working backward through the code, we do arrive at the doorstep of an architect at some point.
If you could get an answer to one question, what would that question be?
I think it's the question we're asking right now. Why us? Why here? Why now? There's another branch of work that this follows up on, and it is the study of whether or not we are living in a simulation or virtual reality. And there is a degree course in one of the large Eastern universities in philosophy that you can take, and the title of the course is Are We Living a Simulation? And to make a long story very brief, what they did was they took a very complex computer algorithm, plugged in all kinds of variables about human population and trajectories and economies and families and religious beliefs, all about life. And the bottom line is there's over a 93% chance that we are living a simulation. Now, if you step into a simulation, a virtual environment in Disneyland, you can do that today and not even really know that that's where you are. And we've only had computers about 60 years. If you take the archaeology that's showing the existence of advanced technological civilizations thousands of years, where would we be if we had thousands of years of computer science to build that kind of that kind of simulation? And the question comes, why would we do this? And the answer for me is that every simulation is built to help the people in the simulation become very well adapted to somewhere that they're going to be when the simulation no longer exists. The simulation is a safe place to make mistakes and learn that power if we are in fact on Earth living a simulation. And our most cherished traditions tell us that we're on our way somewhere else. This isn't it, this is an illusion, this is temporary. In general they say that. Then I think we have to look at what those traditions are telling us, and they're teaching us about our relationship to reality, to quantum reality, to emotions and the emotions of the heart, to create and heal in our bodies and the world around us. And if we master those, maybe that's what this simulation is all about. God eternal within the body may be the architect that has helped to create this simulation.
Do you ever get frustrated that we don't have the answers yet?
I don't, George. I don't, because what it tells me is, and what I've come to understand, is that when we are truly ready for that information, it's right there. Sometimes, this is a perfect example. This has been around, for 200,000 years. But it's only when
to be discovered, though, by those who look.
Or when our technology reaches the point that it gives us the tools to take a peek.
It's almost like that code we sent out on one of the Viking craft,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
Which Stephen Hawking said, don't do, because he's afraid that they'll come here, and he's not so sure they're very benevolent.
Yeah, it was interesting. I actually talk about that code in the book, The God Code. What is it that we said? Who did we write it to?
And who finds it?
And how would it be interpreted?
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense to me. If we are the product of an intentional creation, that the Creator, who or whatever that is, would somehow leave a mark, letting us know when we have the ability to find that.
It is brilliant.
And I can't think of a more honoring way to honor who or what that Creator is than to take that code, read it, and maybe communicate back the other way. And I think we are on our way to doing that. The first letter in all human DNA, if you can look at what's called the genetic code, CTAG, every one of those is made up of combinations of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen. And they are arranged, I don't want to be really technical when I talk about this, but they're arranged different numbers of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen atoms. So within each of the DNA bases that make our DNA as it is, there are different combinations of CTAG that break down the different combinations of God eternal within the body. And the God within our cells, within our DNA, is literally the same spelling of the God that was taken from those texts. Now here's the beauty, I just have to say this.
All right.
My first fear was I found it in the Hebrew language, and I said, does that mean, could it actually be divisive if it only is found in one language? And when the research went to its fruition, what we found is it is in Hebrew and Aramaic and Sanskrit, three of the root languages.
The same thing.
Exactly the same thing. So in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Sanskrit, the code for those letters translates precisely the same in the human DNA. That's the first layer.
In your opinion, that slogan, God eternal, is in the body. What did that mean?
What it tells me is because the odds of that happening by chance are
astronomical,
are steep, it tells me there's an intentionality. Now, who or what, I don't know the answer to that, but it tells me that that the DNA, the way it's formed, it is intentional. And then I began to think, in our modern world, we're creators, we're artists. Whenever we create something that we're proud of, when we're finished, what's the last thing we do when we finish it, George? You tell me, what is the last thing we do with something? We finish a painting, and what's the last thing we do when we finish that painting?
You sign it.
We put our name on it. If there's an intentionality underlying life itself and human life specifically, it would make tremendous sense to me that who or whatever is responsible would somehow have left a sign.
Is it God's signature?
I believe that however we define that, whatever we believe that creator is. My next question is, why not put it into a text or into a temple wall? And then my thinking was, why place that signature into something that can crumble over a few thousand years, like a temple wall, or into the pages of a book that can be destroyed? Why not put it in the creation itself? And as long as the creation exists, the message exists as well. I published this in 2004, even though the research was incomplete. It was complete to that point, and I wanted to share this with the world.